Okay, this next one, especially in Japan, Janken is your friend. The kids really love Janken, and it's a good way to include a game element into your activity. And Janken is ridiculously versatile. You know, it's a really good way to shoehorn a game aspect into almost any activity. And because the students know it, it's very comfortable for them and they get excited playing it. So just remember, if you're ever stuck for a way to include a game element in your activity, Janken is your go-to. Okay, so this next one, so preparation time, specifically with card games. Now, card games are always fun. Kids always love card games and they're always ready to engage with card games. But remember, you have to give yourself time to make the materials. And printing out on white paper will produce cards that you can see through. So just be aware that if you are doing card games that require you to have the cards you have in your hand be a secret, then you might want to double side print them, which again is more work for you. Also, if you're going to make cards, if you have a big school, say 7 classes in a year, you're going to have to laminate those cards, because after 3 or 4 classes, those cards are going to be destroyed. So you're going to have to print them, you're going to have to laminate them, you're going to have to cut them. And if you've got classes with like 35, 40 plus students in, that's a lot of cards, that's a lot of cutting you're going to make. So if you have a cool idea for a game, for example, I once made a version of Uno that used English sentences, and my God, was that a lot of work. So just bear in mind, you might have a cool idea for a game, but think about the amount of lead time you're going to need in order to produce the materials for playing that game with the class. Okay, so the next one is use legible text. Now, the problem with this is people getting carried away with all the fonts that are available on like Word or PowerPoint, etc. Be aware of the text that you're using and don't use text that the kids can't read. For a safe, boring option, then Comic Sans is your go-to. Also be aware there are 2 types of A that text will use, and some English teachers might be really against you using the type of A that the students aren't being taught in class. So just bear that in mind. Again, Comic Sans will solve that problem for you. I can also be a problem because sometimes they don't have the horizontal lines on them in some texts. They just have the straight line, which again looks like a lowercase l. So bear that in mind too. Some teachers will insist that your worksheets have those horizontal lines on your capital I. So again, Comic Sans is a nice, safe, boring option. Also keep the text as big as possible. Alright, so this is an important one. Keep it simple. So avoid complexity in your activities. Complex, difficult games will slow the kids down and limit the amount of speaking time. Keep the games easy and keep them speaking intensive. Complex games will confuse the kids, and any enthusiasm that they have for the game will start to wane as the explanation drags on and on and on. So just remember that the kids are already using a foreign language to play the game, and complex game rules, complex game mechanics will just add on top to make more and more confusion. You want the activities to be fast and allow for lots of speaking and lots of interactions. Also, if you have a particularly complex game, it may require a further Japanese explanation from the Japanese English teacher, which isn't particularly a habit that you want the kids to get into. You want the kids to get into the habit of trying to listen to your English explanation and try to understand it. Because if you bring in a precedent that I'm going to explain it in English and now the Japanese teacher will explain it in Japanese, they'll switch off for the English part because they know the Japanese explanation is coming. So if you have those simple rules, simple mechanics, that means you don't need that extra Japanese explanation. Another problem, if your game is complicated, can be that the Japanese teacher doesn't really understand it. And this can be especially true if your Japanese isn't great. So if you, as an AET in a school, you've come up with this really awesome game, but it's got all these complex mechanics, then you try to explain it to the Japanese English teacher, and they think they understand it, but they don't. Then you go to class and you say something in English, and then the Japanese teacher says something in Japanese, and you don't really understand what they're saying, so you just kind of nod along going, yep, that's it. Then the kids start doing something that's wrong, and you're like, no, you're doing it wrong. And everyone's just confused. So, and then you've got to try and stop everyone. Okay, no, stop, this is how we do it. And again, this is just reducing the amount of time that we have to do the actual activity. Again, games should be demonstrated rather than explained. So you want to keep those mechanics to a minimum so that it's easily understood through a demonstration. Okay, so the last one here is to encourage varied answers. So what I mean by this is if you do, for example, a simple Q&A activity, like, how are you? It's a question, how are you? And the answer, I'm happy, I'm great, I'm fine. If you let the students freely give answers, just wander around and do a survey, I guarantee you every student will just pick one answer and say it over and over and over and over again. They'll just walk around, how are you? I'm happy. Check. How are you? I'm happy. Everyone will be happy, I guarantee you. So what you want to do is you want to encourage a way for the students to give varied answers during the activity. So a good way to do this is to create a rotating PowerPoint. If you have access to some kind of visual display, like a big screen in your classroom, or you have a projector that'll project on the wall, a good way to do this is to create a rotating PowerPoint, which rotates through the answers that are available. That way, when the students pair up and they ask, how are you? The other student can look at the display and then give the answer that's displayed at that time, which means every time they're going to be giving a random answer. And that also includes a comprehension element then, because they have to look at the board, understand what they're seeing, and then communicate it to their partner. Now, if you want to create a rotating PowerPoint, I actually did a video on how to create one, so I guess we'll put like a little link in the top of the screen here, so you can just click on that. I'll also put one at the end of the video, so you can have a look at how to create a rotating PowerPoint. It's very easy. You can do it in a couple of clicks. Very simple, but it's a really good tool that will allow you to make your students give varied answers on simple activities. So that's it. So that's a lot of tips that I've discovered over the years of teaching English in Japan. If you have some other ones that I've missed out, or you think, oh, this is a really good thing I found, please write a comment below and tell me another one, and maybe I'll add it to a future video, because I'm always looking to improve and make my activities better. So if you've got some good tips on things that I've missed, please share them with me below. So I hope that was informative, and I will see you next time.